Hey, what's going on, guys? Out here, and welcome to your top 5 moments of the 2018 British Grand Prix. And what a race that was at Silverstone. After a couple of so-so races in F1, we've been treated to an absolute cracker. So if you haven't seen the Grand Prix, I recommend you go check out the highlights. But these are your top 5 moments. If you're new around here, unfamiliar, obviously I tweet out straight after the Grand Prix what your top moments were. We try and collate them into a top 5, and then we'll do the top 5 and some honourable mentions, because a lot of stuff happened that race, but my word, the ending alone is probably its own top moment. But here we go then. Starting off at number 5 is going to be lap 1 and Lewis Hamilton's spin. I can't believe I'm quite saying that, but that is number 5, because there are 4 other moments that I feel like were even greater later on that Grand Prix. But that was the very first big moment in the race, of course. Hamilton off pole position, really poor getaway. Vettel into the lead of the Grand Prix. Kimi locked up and understeered into Hamilton. Hamilton gave him plenty of room, and just unfortunate. Kimi even admitted it was his own fault, and he felt the penalty was somewhat fair. Speaking to Martin Brundle after the race was over in the kind of like pre-podium ceremony kind of interview. So that was fair enough on his part, but a really big moment, obviously, because that sent Hamilton to the back. And obviously, that's quite ironic for me, because I felt like I almost jinxed Hamilton in a way, because I did the last question mark challenge with Lewis Hamilton earlier on Saturday as a video on the channel, and then he went to last place and had to try and come back, and he got to second, obviously, so he did pretty damn well. I almost matched that, but obviously a huge moment, and for Ferrari fans, that was a big elation moment. But Hamilton obviously kept his foot in and made it back, but that was pretty damn big. Obviously, you got 2 titans of F1 1 point apart. That is a big thing to happen in a race like this, especially at Hamilton's home race. I'm sure the home fans there were probably their hearts sank to the floor when that happened, but of course they didn't know what was about to happen. Number 4 is going to be Valtteri Bottas' decision, and Mercedes' decision really, not to pit Bottas under the safety car. So that was a big deal, because that kept him out at the end of the Grand Prix, and that was a huge deal, because that ultimately gave us that amazing fight in the last 10 to 11 laps on the second safety car restart. So Bottas' decision not to come in, to stay out on that one stop and effectively be a bit stubborn. I don't really know what was the deal with that. I saw a few people tweeting me saying that Merc, I didn't think they didn't have any fresh tyres left to use, but I feel like it would have still been worthwhile to put him on maybe an old set of softs potentially, or old set of mediums, just because he had already been on those tyres for quite a bit of time. And ultimately you saw, especially when Kimi overtook him, that he really felt that impact of the tyres. He did keep it ahead of Ricciardo, which is fair play to him, but kind of that's more of the Mercedes engine v the Renault power and the Red Bull car. They were very much down on the straights this weekend and couldn't match them ultimately. But that was a big deal, because Bottas being the bottleneck gave us that last 10 laps of absolute freedom. Because if it was a different case, if Bottas had fresh tyres, you wouldn't have had that bottleneck. You wouldn't have had that huge fight of Vettel trying to overtake, failing at the first attempt, and then trying a couple of times again. So ultimately, that was a big moment for me, in my opinion, and I think a lot of your guys as well, because that was also a bit of a confusion moment for a lot of Mercedes fans. Question marks again about Mercedes' overall strategy. Yes, Hamilton still got second, but Bottas could have had easier podium, I think, if he had pits. So question marks again for Mercedes in terms of their strategy, decisions. Number 3 is going to be that second safety car restart. That alone, the entire restart, that opening lap after it come back in for green flags, that was amazing. Vettel trying to overtake Bottas. Bottas really cutting him off and shutting the door shut into the left field section, almost taking off his front wing and in a way. And then you had behind Raikkonen right on the back of Hamilton, but And then you had Max Verstappen right on the back of Raikkonen, and Raikkonen equally trying to fend him off and trying to keep up with Hamilton, knowing that the podium is still in sight. The entire restart, that was my drog. That was Formula One. Like, you have a few duds in a season, yes, but this is why I watch it, because when you get the duds, the balance out what is literally the epitome of what we hope that F1 can always be, almost, which is 10 laps of 2 different teams fighting for the top 4 places, all within one camera shot, and they're all pushing flat out. The 2 Ferraris attacking the 2 Mercs like that was absolutely awesome to watch from every different angle. The onboards, the kind of offboards, the helicopter shots, all of it. So cool. That was a great moment in the race, that entire second safety car restart. Number 2, ultimately, even though Verstappen went out of the Grand Prix after what looked like a bit of a failure on the brakes for him, and maybe a half kind of mistake in spinning off, and then ultimately retired retiring at the Grand Prix, Verstappen's move to re-overtake Kimi Räikkönen earlier on the Grand Prix was exquisite. Like, I already thought Kimi was on it like a car bonnet. Like, he was attacking Verstappen quite hard. I was quite impressed that he went for the move, got it, and then seemingly 2 seconds later, Verstappen switches on him on the outside of left field. Absolutely insane move from Verstappen. Really kind of obviously dented by the fact he retired, but that was still right up there. No matter who won the Grand Prix, who was on the podium, that move alone was a big thing in the race. What a great move by Verstappen. And when he does stuff like that, he kind of makes up for some other stupid stuff he does in the past. Definitely was amazing to watch. And number 1 is ultimately going to be that race-winning move, Vettel on Bottas. And I feel this was a really measured drive by Vettel. He tried it once on the safety car restart, didn't work out, and you saw him kind of lunging a few different times, but it wasn't like a total maybe Baku kind of moment for Vettel where he just slammed it in, didn't think about it. It was a composed drive. He kind of tried to suss out maybe, okay, where's the strongest part? It seemed like it was going to be down the Wellington it seemed like it was going to be down that kind of first DRS point straight towards the left field section. He kind of sussed that out and then finally got it, job done, down the inside. Really great move because he doesn't know if how much Bottas has got left on his tyres. Maybe Bottas cuts him off again like he did. So to have the bravery just to go down the inside there, put the neck on the line and get that done, stuck in, and then go out and win that Grand Prix in Hamilton's backyard. Fantastic moment in the race. Big moment for the championship because, it's about, ebb and flow, and this is a big ebb for Vettel to just capitalize. Yes, Hamilton did amazingly to get back to second, but that's because Hamilton did such a great job to get back into second. Vettel had to make sure, for the sake of the championship, this could be a big moment, that he made sure he actually got that win ahead of Hamilton. And so he extends the gap to 8 points rather than 1 now. I think Hamilton can be overall happy. Honourable mention, obviously, if it's not a moment, but his entire race, Hamilton did a fantastic job. Got a little bit lucky, obviously, with 2 safety cars. That definitely did help him out. You can't deny that. But ultimately, it was a great composed drive for him to just get the moves done when he needed to. Didn't do anything brash. Was a little bit downbeat in stages of that race with his team yet again, like Austria, which kind of still calls into question something we'll discuss later on the Pit Lane podcast on the channel, that Hamilton v Vettel this year, for some reason, Hamilton seems to be the one that's a bit more hot-headed in that cockpit rather than Vettel, but still, amazing job to get to second, to recover that and just take the points from not just what would have been maybe, you fear 18 points gained, 15, 12, to just 7 there, and so it's an 8-point gap rather than, anything bigger from what was won. And obviously the German Grand Prix, Hamilton's now going to be raring to go to try and do the exact same to Vettel as he's done to him and try and get it in his back garden of the German Grand Prix. Some other honourable mentions, really gutting to see Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix in the British Grand Prix. He's doing a fantastic job, was running P7 for a lot of that Grand Prix. It looked like it was kind of a throttle kind of issue or transmission issue as he left the pits. Initially I thought it was maybe a pit stop issue, but seemed like all the wheels were still on the wagon, so there might have been some kind of catching on the rear wheels, or it looked like maybe a transmission issue. Really a shame, because literally the commentator's curse on Channel 4 was talking about how fast the pit stops were, so that was a real shame, because that's his first retirement then in Formula 1. And then also gutting for me personally, I don't know about some of you guys as well, Carlos Sainz out of the Grand Prix, that tangle with Romain Grosjean, because Carlos Sainz was in my fantasy team, so that was really annoying, and also annoying for Grosjean to do that, because he had an up in Austria, and then he goes and does that, and it was unfortunate, kind of a racing incident. I don't think you can fully blame Romain, because he's trying to go side by side with Carlos Sainz, has a twitch of oversteer, and of course you're going to have to try and correct that, but because Sainz is so close to him, they made contact, and he can't do anything about that, although I don't agree with what he said personally on the radio about Sainz turning in on him. Definitely was just a racing incident in my opinion, and a little bit of Grosjean maybe should have thought a little bit and kind of backed out of that, because that was Sainz's corner basically. It's got almost like Verstappen v Kimi. Kimi backed out of that, and look what happened. Kimi went on to fight for a position much higher than Max Verstappen, so it's all about just thinking a little bit, and sometimes Grosjean maybe doesn't have that in spades. Definitely this year he's done a few weird things, but yeah, that was a big moment and really a sad one for me to see Carlos Sainz out, because I have Leclerc, Sainz and Haas as a team in my fantasy team, so one Haas DNF, Carlos Sainz out, Leclerc out, really gut. And let me know how you guys' fantasy team went. I will be doing a fantasy video later on, because it's been a while since I've done an update, but let me know in the comments below how you thought that went. And in general, let me know what you thought of that British Grand Prix. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The first British Grand Prix I didn't go to personally, like in person, for about 3 years, but to be honest, I'm kind of happy I watched it from home, because all the different angles made that an exquisite race to watch from home, like crazy. And and I honestly might even watch a replay of it later on, like the last 10 laps at least, because that was just, as I said, really, really enjoyable. 2 Ferraris v 2 Mercs, flat out, sprint race to the end. That's what the safety car on a dry race can do for you, so yeah, great job. And for Ferrari as a whole to come to Silverstone and do that, they've gone kind of okay. Their car's usually actually quite okay at Silverstone. It's not been amazing. The Mercs definitely have had the upper hand, and Vettel personally has never really gone that well at the British Grand Prix. But for them to do that now in Hamilton's backyard, I was going to say Merck's backyard, it kind of almost is Merck's backyard. Obviously, they're based in the UK, is a big deal for Ferrari. I think they're going to take a lot of positivity from this going on later in the season. But guys, yeah, if you did enjoy the video and you did enjoy that race, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below of the British Grand Prix. Any top moments that I missed out that you personally are in your one. Obviously, there was a bit of a few people were kicking up a fuss about Hamilton straight away running away from the interview from Martin Brundle on the podium, but I think that's just because he didn't want to have his home fans see him so pissed off, and he wanted to compose himself, and he was going to have an interview anyway on the actual podium itself. I don't know why they've actually started to do this double interview thing. It doesn't really make sense to me, but there you go. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that, because I know some people are definitely quite salty is the word on Twitter about that. But yeah, if you are new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula One content. Like I said, we'll do the Pit Lane podcast to review the British Grand Prix. Hopefully it might come out later today actually, so look out for that. But I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.